Welcome, everybody. Another episode of the AskOkey podcast here in Studio One. I'd like to start with I think you call it a shout out to all our followers on Facebook, subscribers on YouTube, and people on Instagram. Thank you all very much. Your comments are all well received, interesting, literate, erudite, and everything else I can say about them. So thank you. This evening, or today rather, the subject is evening wear. I'm, of course, dressed for the evening. My colleague here is dressed for the morning. So that provides us with a little bit of a contrast. We'll be talking about formal and informal evening wear. So bear with us, and I think we'll have an exciting discussion. Welcome, Oki.
Thank you, as always, Pete.
Most welcome. And you'll notice Oki's, as usual, very sharply dressed in a new jacket.
Yes, sir.
It is, okay. It's a new jacket, black striped trousers, and this is the outfit that some years ago, I must say, bank managers used to wear. When I worked in a hotel in London back in the 80s, the managers all wore a stroller, which is, I think, what you call it.
That is correct.
I think nowadays about the only people who wear these are undertakers. And that doesn't detract at all from the effect. So tell us about it. Barathea, black Barathea?
Well, shall I stand or shall I sit?
Let's stand.
Okay.
Let's have a look.
There we have it. So this, Pete, is what you might call a stroller.
Yes.
And it's done, the coat, of course, is done in Barathea, which is the fabric that it's used for any other sort of formal coat, including
like
a dinner suit.
Like this one.
Such as you have on.
But I noticed it's what should I call it, a lumpy Barathea? It's quite you can see the weave.
The weave.
Whereas on, for example, this one you don't see.
Because it's heavier. This is a thicker, this is a 21-ounce Barathea by Fox. It's it's a special edition cloth. So it's a bit more of I guess what they would call a connoisseur's Barathea.
Right.
Yes. And of course the trousers are cashmere stripes. I'm not sure why they call them cashmere stripes because they're not made of cashmere.
No.
These are actually made of wool.
Yes.
But traditionally they're called cashmere stripes, and these are trousers that are paired with a morning dress.
Yes.
Or a stroller.
And known in London at one time, possibly still today, as sponge bag trousers because they used to make sponge bags in a similar pattern.
I am absolutely. I have no idea what sponge bags are.
Well, there we go. That's what they used to be called that. Now you've also got these cloth-covered buttons here.
Correct.
So it's like a dinner jacket, but without the facings.
Absolutely. And the idea when I designed this or when I configured this, I thought about versatility.
Yeah.
Now, this I could have designed as a dinner jacket.
Yes.
Which means it should have come with either silk facings or gros grain. How do they say?
Gross grain.
Gross grain.
Yeah.
There's a
I think
French
that's what
way
this is.
Which is what you have on.
Yes.
But that would limit the coat.
Yes.
It would
indeed.
limit it
Very
strictly to
seriously
a
limited,
dinner
yes.
jacket.
Yeah.
The way I've sort of configured this, I wouldn't say design, it's more like configuration, but the way I've configured it is with essentially self lapels.
Yes.
That way it can be worn after 6 p.m. At dinner, or it can be worn in the daytime as part of a stroller, which is exactly how I have it on.
Indeed.
Correct.
And you could wear a black and grey houndstooth tie. That would look quite smart, actually.
Absolutely. If you were, say, going to a daytime wedding, for instance,
right.
This would be a good substitute for a morning
Yes, it would.
coat.
It would, yes.
And in that event, you might wear a silver tie or a houndstooth tie, or even sort of what you might call, or just something very simple, but in gray. However, we're shooting at night, as we are wont to do. And so, since we're shooting in the evening, I thought it would be more appropriate to wear a black tie.
A black tie, and there we are. We've both got black ties on.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
And just a plug for the design and the manufacture or production. AskOkey features here. In fact, I think we can safely say, without sounding like we're blowing our trumpet here, that it's unique. You don't get this really anywhere else. The extra fabric here, the way the collar sits, the extra bits in the shoulder,
the drape in the
and
chest.
the drape in the chest, which is achieved by adding a bit here in the shoulder. So you'll notice that Okey's shoulder
extension
is an extension, because his shoulder actually doesn't come out this far, probably about half an inch.
Absolutely.
And then that enables you, even on a 4x1 Okey, which doesn't have that quite the same V shape as
the 4x2.
The 4x2 or the 6x2.
Correct.
You notice that the fundamental sort of AskOkey silhouette is not sacrificed.
It's not compromised.
No, it's not compromised.
Absolutely,
No.
absolutely. The shape is there.
Yes.
As you said again, the shoulder extensions help with enhancing the bloom in the chest. Some people call it a balloon chest.
The balloon chest.
We call it a drape chest.
The drape chest. And of course, the other thing is, it's not something that you notice when the jacket's hanging up on a hanger. You only notice it when somebody's wearing it. And of course, if I were to wear it, it wouldn't look quite as good on me, because my chest's a different shape from what Okey's got, and vice versa. So this is what you get when you have your own shop and you can go in and get them to make it. But it's also what you could get, conceivably, from AskOkey. And I think that the kicker really is the collar. You'll notice how the collar sits. And this is a trademark of genuine Bespoke. Also the back drape, if you wouldn't mind just for a moment there. The back drape, now you might think, well, oh dear, look at that excess. In fact, it's there for a reason, because if you don't have this back drape, you won't get the front drape.
Yes.
So a little bit of a lesson there for the cognoscenti in our audience.
Absolutely.
I'm afraid, I'm not wearing AskOkey.
Well, it is still a beautiful 4x2
Thank you.
dinner suit. This is what you might call a proper traditional 4x2 dinner suit. It is made in Barathea, of course. We haven't made this. This is not an AskOkey.
No, it's not an AskOkey.
This is Pete's grandfather's dinner suit. Believe it or not. This is your grandfather's dinner suit.
It is, yes.
And
right,
it's been slightly altered because he was taller.
Yeah, he was
a fair bit taller than you are.
He was taller than I am.
And so you've altered it at the sleeves and certain other things. But this suit has to be at least 60, 70 years old.
No, 80.
80 years
80
old.
years old, yes.
And it still looks absolutely stunning.
Well, it's not worn very often, you see. That's perhaps
it doesn't matter. The point to make there is that classic dress, when well done, is evergreen.
Yeah.
And
yes,
this
it should be.
This is the same style that was worn then. It's still quite fitting and appropriate today.
Yes, I call this AskOkey's grandfather, because what you'll notice is what Okey's got was made very recently, designed and produced very recently. But it doesn't look all that different.
Absolutely. If we stand by side,
exactly.
We're both wearing 4x2 coats.
That's right.
This was made 80 years ago.
Yes.
80 years ago.
That's right.
And this was made, quite recently. But you can see the fundamental principles are still there. You can see the shoulder extension. You can see the drape in the chest. You can see sort of, the full cut trousers, of course. And overall, it's just a timeless.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Absolutely timeless look.
Yes. And of course, you can tell it was made during the war because they're using regular buttons.
As opposed to
cloth-covered buttons. Yeah, using regular buttons. And the trousers have no lining. And I can only imagine that during wartime, they couldn't get satin or whatever they used as the lining. So the trousers have no lining, and they're using regular buttons. So which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's not something we have to worry about. Right, let's have a seat.
Sure.
And let's talk about evening wear. So, first thing is, does evening wear have to be a black suit like mine?
No.
Okay. What are the options?
Well, you have formal evening wear, and then you have semi-formal evening wear. And I'll perhaps break this down or sort of provide practical examples or anecdotes. And so black tie, when you say black tie, it specifies, of course, a black tie. Very often it's going to mean a dinner suit or a tuxedo, or say a cream dinner jacket or a navy dinner jacket,
And
such
we
as you have up there.
just
That is-
happen to have one.
That is a
Right
semi-formal. That would be sort of a semi-formal coat. The
Yes.
shawl lapel would be more formal.
We'll look
actually.
at that in a moment.
Okay.
This one here, you see, this looks like a regular jacket, doesn't it?
Correct.
So you've got sort of fawn-colored or tan-colored buttons, double-breasted, little bit broader in the lapel than what Oak is wearing right now, or maybe it just looks that way.
Well, that's a 4x2. It is actually a different design.
Okay.
And
okay.
this coat, equally made in Barathea,
Yes.
is something that could be used casually in the evening. Now, if you've noticed, we haven't done the buttons with a self
No,
cover.
that's right. They're not cloth-covered
If,
buttons.
if they were proper, if this was a proper formal coat, it would be covered in the self cloth. And you will see when you pick up the shawl lapel dinner jacket in a similar cream,
Yep.
the buttons are covered in self,
Yes.
in the self cloth. So,
Like on your coat. Yes.
absolutely. So this is something that could double as a casual, sort of a dressy but casual evening jacket.
And you could wear this with, for example, you could wear it with black trousers.
Correct.
If you wanted to.
Black formal trousers.
Black formal trousers. And if you had a white shirt, for example, with a camp collar, you could actually wear it with an unbuttoned
Well, I
collar
wouldn't
shirt.
wear it with a camp collar. I would
Right.
always wear something like this with a proper collar.
With a proper collar and a tie.
With or without a tie.
Right, okay.
Since it's semi-casual. So again, this is not very formal. So something like this you could wear with an open neck or with an ascot in the evening.
Could. And probably for the summer, because it's a light color, and traditionally, I suppose, light colored dinner jackets are for the summer.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's one there, which might give you some ideas. Let's check the next one here. Now this is slightly flashier,
More dressy.
dressy, and of course, those of you who are old enough to have seen a film called Casablanca
With
will
Humphrey
recognize the shawl lapel jacket, and it's interesting because the lapels they're not wide at the top like most lapels, they're wide actually at the bottom, which is an interesting effect. And as Oki was saying, the buttons are covered with fabric, so they're self buttons. Other than that, what can you tell us about this one?
Well, these are certainly more dressy than the other. The peak lapel double-breasted you just showed us, that can be dressed down. It could be also worn with a bow tie, but that's something that sort of you could cross over between formal and so on. But this is strictly, I suppose you might call certainly more formal.
Yes.
You can see signature Barathea. It's a Barathea cloth done in the buttons that are all done in the self cloth. So it's covered. All the hallmarks. It's a 4x2.
Yes.
Or 4x1. So all the hallmarks of a dinner, a proper dinner jacket. So something like this, I would certainly only wear with a bow tie and a dinner shirt.
And you notice you don't have flaps on the pockets.
No, all formal garments are done without flaps. All formal garments have to come with what you might call basin pockets.
Basin pockets.
Or some call them jetted pockets.
Jetted pockets.
Correct.
Now, tell us a bit about Barathea, because we've mentioned that this is Barathea, and this is Barathea. Now, what is Barathea?
Barathea is wool, essentially. It's the weave that makes it Barathea, the way it's woven. Now,
sort of a basket, very, very tight basket weave.
Yes, and don't hold me to account on why it's woven that way. My history, should I say, my knowledge in history doesn't go that deep. But I do know that all formal garments are woven this particular way in this cloth called Barathea, of course. But the underlying cloth itself is 100% wool.
And you could, I suppose, use mohair.
Certainly. In the summer, mohair, of course, breeds better. It's more openly, it's sort of, the mohair is a completely different, mohair is a goat, actually. It's made from mountain goat.
Yeah.
And so it's a different fiber. It's not sheep fiber. It tends to be a bit looser and it breeds a lot better. So if you're looking for an alternative, summer alternative or tropical alternative to Barathea, then mohair is certainly perhaps the only option really you have out there.
But you didn't put satin facings on this one.
No, I haven't. I just thought cream or off-white is a very strong color. Now, there are those who do it. You know, there are those who might put satin or silk facings on the lapel. I just thought it might be overwhelming.
Yes,
because the color itself is already, it's quite, it really sticks out. And so the whole idea behind design is balance. You seek balance. And I just didn't want to overpower the jacket with shiny lapel, so to speak.
And you'll notice it's not white. It's off-white, it's a cream color. And a white dinner jacket...
should never happen.
No, I was going to say bands. Like big bands or band leaders.
Yeah, you look like a band leader, absolutely.
But not a well-dressed gentleman.
Absolutely, it is what they might call verboten.
There you go. So you've got the semi-formal and the more formal in the same color, but this is still not quite fully formal.
Well, I mean, I suppose you could say in the summer, it could be considered formal. I mean, it's as formal as they get in the summer. In the summer.
Yes. Okay. Now this one, everybody, take a really good look at this. Bottle green, single-breasted with peak lapels, and it's made of velvet.
This is velvet, absolutely, which is cotton. You know, velvet is cotton. Or derived from cotton or a derivative of cotton. It's just a beautiful lush velvet by Harrison's of Edinburgh. And a velvet jacket is certainly what you might call semi-formal.
Yes.
And so you wouldn't wear this to a very formal black tie event, but certainly to a Christmas party or something of that nature that calls for being somewhat dressed up, but not over the top.
And it's a Christmassy sort of color, isn't it?
It's a Christmassy sort of color, bottle green or burgundy.
And
you've also be nice.
You've done some piping along the edges of the lapels and down the front in satin?
In satin, absolutely. And that is purely aesthetic. That is just sort of a design element. I just wanted to sort of give the jacket a little bit more oomph. A bit more character.
Oomph is certainly what it has. Some of us would, I think, not quite have the, what's the right word?
Chutzpah.
I'm trying to think of a polite term to...
Chutzpah.
Yes, or the moxie to wear something like this. But those of you who really want to make an impression, this will definitely help you to make an impression.
Absolutely.
And of course, it's made in the standard sort of AskOkey way, so it's not just something it's not a throwaway item.
It's a single-breasted peak lapel.
It's a single-breasted peak lapel.
It's done in a single-breasted peak lapel design.
But I mean, it's got the padding and everything in it, and it's got a full lining and it's
fully canvas. It's got all the essentially all the fundamentals of any AskOkey coat.
It probably would get about 2 wearings a year.
Well, it depends on your social life.
Right. So you could, in fact, have it for quite a long time. Velvet, when it wears out, looks pretty awful. But I think this, given that you wouldn't be wearing this very often, it would last a long time. And you could do it in a dark burgundy velvet, for example.
Or navy.
Or even navy, yes. And
those are the 3 primary colors for velvet, at least in my book. Navy or midnight. Navy or midnight blue. Bottle green and burgundy are the 3 standard colors for velvet dinner jackets.
And then we have, this is heavy, because this is 25-ounce Barathea.
No, that's 17-ounce Barathea.
17-ounce Barathea, still pretty heavy. Now what we have here is a little bit like mine, black formal dinner suit. The gross grain shiny lapels, and this is a 4x2. Right,
It's been done as a 4x2.
4x2, and we have the full rig here.
And you can see the difference when I stand. You can see the difference between this is a 4x2 and what I have on is a 4x1.
There we are.
So there you have.
Yes. You'll notice on the 4x2, everybody, that the two buttons are directly in line with each other, whereas this one, they're over to the side a little bit.
Shape.
And of course, the effect of that is it kind of accentuates the V shape.
The V shape, absolutely.
And is there any particular reason you made a 4x2 for the dinner jacket and not a 4x1?
Well, it's just an option.
Right,
option,
okay.
Of course. You can have it done as a 4x1 if you wish. Now, for shorter gentlemen,
Yes.
I always recommend a 4x1 because it has a longer lapel line.
It does.
It gives you sort of that illusion of height. The 4x2 has a shorter lapel line.
So your buttoning here, by the way, everybody, just your buttoning here
is at about the natural
right about
waist.
at your waist. And this one here, like Okey's, you're actually buttoning at the hip.
At the hip,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it gives you a longer sweeping
Much
lapel
longer
line.
sweeping lapel.
So if you're tall, you could pull this off certainly.
Yes.
If you're tall, you could pull off a 4x2 very easily. If you're shorter, then I certainly would recommend a 4x1.
And you'll notice a slightly different color. You see, I said this was black, but of course it isn't. It's
Well,
actually.
it is black, actually.
I was thinking it's midnight.
No, this is black.
Ah, it's black, is it? Okay.
This is black.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both black.
Now, let's take a look at what goes under the. Don't worry, it's all perfectly decent. What goes under the dinner jacket? What goes under it is a single-breasted waistcoat and the evening trousers. Now let's take a look at the waistcoat first. You'll notice that this doesn't look like the sort of waistcoats that you've seen Okey wearing, which come up very high and is in fact what a waistcoat should be. But an evening waistcoat, you've got a sort of scoop here and a very low front.
Correct.
And you've only got 3 or 4 buttons, which you have to do up.
Single-breasted waistcoat.
Single-breasted waistcoat. So you've actually got a clip on the top, and then you've got the 3 buttons. The 3 buttons that you see.
Correct.
Okay. Unlike a regular waistcoat where you've got 5 or 6 buttons, and as I said, the fastening does up.
And the idea behind this is essentially you want to create this scoop to show off the marcella.
Ah, yes. The
The dinner shirt.
Yes.
So when you wear a proper dinner shirt, the bib is made from a fabric called marcella, which is sort of a textured fabric. And also you wear studs. When you're wearing a dinner shirt, you wear studs. So the idea behind cutting a low front on the vest is to enable one to fully express the splendor of the outfit.
Of the male chest, yes.
Well, not just the chest, but you want to express sort of the entire splendor, meaning the studs that go in the shirt, and then the marcella, which is a very, very nice textured fabric
cloth
that goes on the front of, on the bib of the shirt.
And there used to be, you're too young to remember this, but there used to be actually, they used to call them boiled shirts because they were literally starched. The front was starched. It was starched as stiff as a collar. And of course, if you weren't very careful, the studs would pop out because it was literally like a sort of suit of armor that went down in front of your dinner jacket. So things have changed a bit. Now you have a soft front, but it's a Marcella front. It's that textured stuff with your diamond studs or whatever they are in there. And then we've got the dinner jacket or evening trousers, similar, I suppose, to what I'm wearing.
You have
They've got a shiny stripe down there, and no cuffs. Okay, this is a big thing that dinner jacket, evening dress trousers don't have
all
a cuff.
formal trousers, as a matter of fact, including day formal.
And the
Including
sponge
your
bag
morning
trousers, yes.
Of course, they come without cuffs.
And of course, these are made in the AskOkey way. So, trousers.
May I sit?
Oh, so go ahead, Okey. Yes, sorry. Yes. Trousers, waistcoat, and dinner jacket. Now, wearing a waistcoat with a double-breasted dinner jacket might be a little bit too much for some people. But of course, if you've got a single-breasted dinner jacket, you can wear the waistcoat and leave it open.
Correct. Well, if you live in a cold climate, for instance, in the winter, then certainly you can wear a double-breasted dinner jacket, and you can have a waistcoat
Now,
where the coat would actually be functional.
okay. Now, so far we've seen the double-breasted jacket, the ivory jacket, the shawl lapel jacket, the bottle green velvet peaked lapel jacket. Now let's take a look at another waistcoat. And this is a double-breasted evening waistcoat.
Correct.
So this could be worn, I suppose, with the bottle green jacket.
Well, this is part of a complete suit.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't have the coat here because I had to send it back to the workshop. But it is part of a single-breasted peak lapel dinner suit.
Right, okay.
And so this is done in midnight blue.
Yes, I was going to say, and you can
Correct.
possibly see the color.
It looks very black.
It almost looks black,
but you
doesn't
can
it?
tell it's midnight blue.
Yes, it is. There we are.
And you can tell the difference.
Yeah, you can. And this has these big scooped lapels. You see this on evening dress, but you never see a lapel like this on daytime clothes.
No.
And again, you've got 3 buttons here, and it's a double-breasted evening waistcoat. Something looked very, very smart, because you can leave the jacket open and let everybody admire the way you've done your waistcoat. And this, by the way, typical AskOkey waistcoat. It's built up and well padded, and it's got the back made of the same fabric as the front.
Correct.
Which you like.
Yes.
Okay. And then the standard AskOkey trousers. Now, is this Barathea?
That is Barathea
But
in midnight.
It feels like a rougher or thicker weave of Barathea.
Well, it's the same weave as what I have on.
Is it? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
exactly the same.
And where's this from?
This is by Fox.
Fox.
Yes.
Okay. And
It's a very heavy Barathea.
it is, isn't it?
Yes.
It really is. And for those of you who are new to this, Fox, the merchant Fox in England has been selling fabric since like 1773 or something. It's a very, very old and highly revered outlet and, of course, producer. And they have a mill in, I believe, Somerset, and they get their sheep.
As are our partners, Harrison's, by the way.
As do our partners, Harrison's. But Fox is quite well known
Shameless
for...
plug.
Shameless plug. Fox is quite well known for limited edition cloth, some very, very heavy cloths, and some very, very lightweight cloths as well, by the way.
Correct.
Quite adventurous with patterns. If you like innovative patterns, you might want to check the Fox website. But obviously, if it's evening wear, patterns is something you don't you really
well,
don't
except
need.
tartans, actually, you could wear black watch
Yes.
at
Now,
night.
let's think about that, because there was, when I was young, there was a sort of trend to have plaid jacket with black lapels and then the black trousers.
Yes.
Again, very popular with musicians. And then it died.
Well, it never quite died. It's still there. Actually, I do have a pair of tartan, what they would call black watch trousers, which
Black watch tartan.
which I pair with either dinner jacket or even sort of a navy blazer, and they're still quite appropriate.
But could you have a jacket made of black watch
Oh,
tartan?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there are those who actually make complete dinner suits out of black watch. I think it's a bit overpowering.
Yes,
I wouldn't do it myself, but there are those who make a full dinner suit out of black watch. However, the more typical configuration is a dinner jacket in black watch, worn with dark.
So one or the other,
or the
jacket
other way
or
around,
trousers, yeah.
absolutely.
And black watch tartan, green and black, as you know, is pretty muted.
Yes.
Unlike, for example, something like Hunting Stewart, which is got a lot of red in it.
Yes.
I think the plaid dinner jacket probably was something that really couldn't, I mean, I don't mean black watch, I mean very bright plaid. Probably something that didn't have a lot of life in it. So these fashion trends that come and go. Very popular at one time, as I said, when they used to make dinner jackets with quite narrow lapels. Narrow shawl lapels, smaller bow ties than, for example, what I've got on, and the black trousers. Now, we're talking about evening wear, and you've got a full set of evening wear for different occasions. When does one wear evening dress these days?
Well, I think that's the big, one of the major things you'd hear from most is that, well, when am I going to wear a tuxedo? Obviously, there are not as many events where these things are absolutely required. However, I am a firm believer in just dressing for yourself. Well,
Yes,
I wouldn't
yes.
say for yourself, but you dress how you want to be received.
Sure.
And in my own experience, when you dress well, properly, you're very well received. And so even if the occasion doesn't call for it specifically,
Yes.
I think one could take some license and dress up if you wish to.
Yes.
And so there are no shortage of occasions to wear a dinner suit if you wish to. On a weekend, you could take your
Right.
date out or your wife out
Yes,
if
you
you're married,
could, yes,
if you have a
yes.
significant other.
Yes.
A beautiful dinner on a Friday night is occasion enough to
Yes,
wear
true,
at least the semi-formal dinner suit.
Well, you see, that ivory jacket, the one that we looked at, the less formal evening jacket, I wouldn't call it a dinner jacket, call it an evening jacket. You could wear that even with a straight tie.
Correct.
You could wear that literally with a straight black tie.
Correct.
Yeah. So there's still a place, still a need to have at least one dinner suit.
I think there will always be some occasion.
Yeah.
Today, weddings or things of that nature. I own a morning dress, so I would probably wear a morning dress for a wedding.
Yes, yes.
Most don't. So most people would wear a tuxedo even in the daytime, even though tuxedo should be worn only in the evening. But I've seen them worn to daytime weddings, for instance.
Hence the name evening dress. Yes, what's odd is that at one time, people used to wear evening dress a lot, okay? And in fact, this before I was born, certain areas of society, they wore it very, very often indeed. So people used to go to the theater in evening dress, so forth. And the unfortunate thing is, of course, that, or fortunate or unfortunate, is it's rather dull. I mean, it's just black and white. At the same time, when everybody is wearing black and white, there's a sort of great equalizing effect because you all kind of look the same. And you might look really sloppy in a lousy suit, but in evening dress, everybody sort of looks halfway decent, provided it's not appallingly badly cut. And that has changed. Now, of course, if you really want formal evening dress, then you go a step further and then you have the white tie and the tails, which I don't think anybody wears really
Well,
much.
I mean, there are balls. There are specific balls
Yes.
that call for white tie, but those are very few. Those
Yeah.
are very rare.
Yeah.
If you go to Vienna, for instance, I live partially in Vienna. I keep a place in Vienna. And Vienna still sort of has a very strong tradition in dress.
Right.
Well, not just in dress, but just they just still have maintained a very strong tradition, especially in music.
Mm-hmm.
And so around the Christmas season, there are a lot of balls. They have the Viennese ball, and every society and every group, fraternities, sororities, they all have these dance balls.
Right.
And you should attend one of those balls. The outfits are just spectacular. The gentlemen still dress in tails, and the ladies still wear beautiful ball gowns. It just feels like stepping into a completely different time. But this is something the Viennese take a lot of pride in, and I haven't attended, but I have been around the occasions and I've seen the audience or the guests dressed up for these occasions, and it is just absolutely remarkable.
Wow. No, I hadn't heard about that. And of course, I presume you have a tailcoat.
I do not. That
you
is
don't?
That is the one thing I haven't yet. I do not have a tailcoat. I haven't made one yet. I've had a morning dress. We're redesigning one.
Yep.
I had one made about 6 years ago in Italy when I was still having when I still had my tailoring done in Italy, and I still own that. It's about 6-7 years old now. However, at AskOkey, of course, we are redesigning our morning dress or a morning coat. So we're starting from scratch, and we're currently working on the prototype to produce a morning dress. Morning coat,
and that'll be what, dark gray or black?
Well, we'll have it in two versions. So we'll have it in black barathia to be worn with these cashmere stripes, and we'll have it done in dove gray, which would be sort of the spring summer version as a complete suit
for the racetrack.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, do you think anybody wants one?
Oh, I'm sure. We get a lot of requests on Instagram. There are a lot of, in fact, we had a gentleman who's a performer. About a month ago, he's an artist, a performer whose stage persona calls for a morning dress, at least a morning coat. Okay. And so he approached us to make one for him. So yes, there are people, we get requests here and there. Not as often as we do for your conventional suits.
Yeah, sure.
But yes, there is a market there for it.
And what's curious, of course, is that I'm trying to think, where could you go and get one? Then you might get one from a theatrical costumer. You could go to some of the traditional tailoring houses.
Eve and Ravenscroft. Am I saying it right?
Ravenscroft.
Eve and Ravenscroft?
Eve and Ravenscroft.
Eve and Ravenscroft. They are a shop in London that specialize in these, what I call niche outfits.
Yep.
So, for instance, they make, things like tails, evening, morning dress, even baristas outfits. So things that you don't find everywhere. So there are still a few specialty shops that carry some of these things, but these things look absolutely atrocious when made ready to wear. Because they're very technical garments. A morning coat or evening tails, they're so technical and so precise that there is absolutely no way you can make them ready to wear or one size fits all. It would look absolutely atrocious. Yes. And so when you see anyone in one of these rented morning dresses or tails, it screams, it announces itself from a mile away.
And of course, when you're wearing an outfit that already draws attention to itself, you don't want to draw more attention to yourself for the wrong reason.
For the wrong reasons.
No, that would be most unfortunate. So Eden Ravenscroft, that's the place, if you're in London, to go and ask for...
I believe it's in Piccadilly.
Yeah, a morning coat or an evening tailcoat. Now, we saw jackets, we saw waistcoats, we saw trousers. We haven't seen shirts, but let me just ask you briefly, do you recommend a wing collar with I mean, I'm just wearing a regular soft collar, but do you recommend a wing collar with a bow tie?
Well, I mean, wing collars are absolutely necessary for if you're wearing a white tie.
Okay.
So that is non-negotiable. If you're wearing if the outfit is white tie, then it calls for a wing collar. With a tuxedo, of course not. You could, but I think a point collar or starch collar is just, at least in the current dispensation, is just good enough.
It's interesting you mentioned, call it the current dispensation, because there was a time when, if you worked in a stock exchange in London, if you went in a soft collar, you were thrown out bodily. And a friend of mine, many years ago, had actually been one of a gang that threw a man out. And I asked him, well, why did you do it? He said, because he was wearing a soft collar. So he was thrown out.
No, I think some of those rules have been relaxed, but certainly if you're wearing a tuxedo or a dinner suit, you certainly want to wear a collar shirt.
Obviously,
a collar,
yes,
obviously, with a bow tie, or with a black tie means a bow tie. Of course, not black as I have on.
And unless it's the Oscars, and I used to watch the Oscars, I don't watch them anymore. People used to wear the oddest things, and you'd find somebody striding down the red carpet with a dinner jacket and a T-shirt, for example, or a dinner jacket and a white scarf, but no tie. They're all odd things that people used to wear.
Well, that's Hollywood.
But of course, if you are a movie star, you can get away with it.
You have a lot of latitude. You have license.
But what's interesting about this, Oki, is that there are sort of unwritten rules, as you were just saying about the wing collar with the white tie and so forth. And while they're not laws, they're kind of customs that people get into. And you know about them, and you tell everybody about them. Obviously, there's a place for them. Now, you said something very interesting before the show, which I'd like to talk to you a little bit about. It's not specifically about evening wear, although it could be, because as you were saying, you know, people might get interested and take the opportunity to wear evening dress. You mentioned that somebody had made a comment, I think, on one of the social media channels, that he'd never thought of wearing a suit, but now he was thinking about it. I thought that was an interesting observation. Is it because so many people see so many horrible suits and they think I wouldn't be caught dead in one? Or do they assume that all suits are grey? That all suits don't fit? Is it perhaps that now they're starting to get an idea of what's possible? And that wearing a suit doesn't make you dull and doesn't mean that you ride the tube or the subway to work every day?
Well, look, Pete, it's all about presentation. And I think the way suits have been presented, one, is as a corporate uniform, at least over time, historically. That is changing, or that has changed entirely. Obviously, a lot of corporate world has moved on into what one might call business casual, or whatever it is they wear today. And so that has provided a license for those who saw this as sort of some sort of prison uniform to get rid of them.
Yes.
But as you and I know, suits serve a broader function beyond just sort of something to wear to the office. And there are a lot of men who grew up not understanding that there is that other aspect, or that other element to a suit than just something you wear to work.
Yes, indeed.
They saw it just as a pair of corporate dungarees.
Corporate
and
overalls,
so what we've done at AskOkey actually is, and you might call this sort of a marketing, perhaps by design or not, is just I think we've taken a very approachable view to tailored dressing. And so people have been able to see that there are other ways to express oneself in tailoring besides going to the office. And I think that has really sparked a lot of interest from people who otherwise might have shied away from your, typical gray flannel suit. And who all of a sudden, want to dress up in a suit because they now can see how it can elevate.
So a suit that is
oneself.
not a suit, in fact. A suit that is not a suit, what I mean is...
A suit that is fun. A suit that is interesting, that is fun, that is not just, like I said, a uniform or a pair of dungarees.
Yes. And obviously, the better made and the better designed it is...
And more comfortable.
They're more comfortable. The better you're going to look, the better you're going to feel about yourself as well. And I think there's an important point there, that it sort of boosts your... not self-esteem, that's too strong an expression, but it definitely perks you up when you're wearing a jacket that really fits well.
Correct.
And of course, when you're wearing one of the AskOkey jackets, I know this from my own experience, when you're wearing one of the AskOkey jackets, it fits you to the point that you actually feel different in it, because of the way you can move around in it and the way you can move your arms, what have you.
Correct.
So isn't that interesting? Well, I think that wraps it up for today. We've talked about evening wear in some detail, I must say. You've got your semi-formal or informal evening wear, like the ivory jacket, possibly with black trousers and a white shirt, if you want to make it look rather formal. You've got the shawl-collared, cream-colored jacket, if you want to look, again, not only more formal, but slightly adventurous, I think. And then, of course, if it requires it, the standard black. If you're really feeling adventurous, and as we come closer to the holiday season, the bottle green evening jacket certainly bears a mention, possibly in black watch, if not in bottle green velvet. And you've got your evening waistcoat and your evening trousers, and you put it all together.
Correct.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Very good. Always a
Bye-bye
pleasure,
now.
Pete. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy.